The dash a digit, the schedule busy. My head in a hoodie, my shorty a goodie. My cousins are crazy, my cousins like boogie. Life is amazing, it is what it should be. Been here for 10, but I feel like a rookie. I look up cause it's snowing in Tootsies. Booked for 3 years, man.
Episode 2.
We're back.
Episode 2. We're gonna top last year's total. I can feel it. We're gonna get past the episodes. We're already more than half. We're gonna be more than halfway there.
Yeah, 2/3 of the way there.
So we're back. Echols and Webb. We're thinking about Teed Up as the name of the podcast. We don't know yet though.
Let us know what you think.
We could just stay traditional Webb. There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, yeah, but it has to be something creative. You know, you want to. Yeah.
Especially podcast world's pretty creative. So
yeah,
they get a lot of creative names.
Exactly. So just comment what you think our podcast name should be below. You know, like and subscribe. Isn't that what you say when you
like and subscribe?
Channel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So we're gonna get into some segments. We've come up with some ideas here to keep a little more structure to the show. So Terrence, you want to start off with our Jimmy Butler update?
Yeah, so I don't know if they did last week. I don't think so. Jimmy Butler has sort of shifted in terms of who he wants to go to. Originally, he listed the Clippers, Knicks, and Nets as his 3 preferred destinations, but it was reported early this week. I don't know if it was last week even, that the Miami Heat are actually his preferred destination now. And apparently the Heat are heavily pursuing him. They don't really have much to give up in terms of acquiring him, which is why we haven't really heard much yet. But I think that would be great to see a Dwayne Wade, Jimmy Butler reunion. You know, people thought that they had beef and that they weren't friends because of what happened on Instagram a few months ago. But that's just two friends, you know, friendly banter, you know.
Absolutely. And I believe I saw that the package that the Timberwolves wanted from the Heat was something along the lines of Bam Adebayo, Josh Richardson, and then a protected first-round pick, which doesn't seem like a whole lot for a guy who, if the Heat are on Jimmy Butler's list of teams that he would potentially re-sign with, you're getting, you know, a debatable top 10 player in the NBA for just that. And even if he's only there for a year, I mean, you get a year of trying to convince him to re-sign if he's not ultimately on their list right now. But I really don't think like that was too steep of a price. I think that the story is that the Heat are unwilling to give up that much for him. They feel like they can get him for a cheaper price. But I don't know. I feel like that. I thought that the asking price would be a little bit higher than even that. I thought it would be low in general, but a little bit higher than that. So I believe now that he's not going to – I saw something that he's not going to hold out, and he's going to actually report soon if he doesn't get traded. So he's not going to play hard to get, as they say. So you got anything else on Jimmy Butler?
Nothing other than that, really. But, you know, what is interesting about this is people talk about Jimmy Butler going to New York or L.A., the Clippers, obviously, and having his friend and teammate on USA Basketball, Kyrie Irving, join him. But there was also some news that came out yesterday about Kyrie Irving. Tyler, you want to get into that?
Right. So it was at the annual, they have a thing at the TD Garden where they have all the season ticket holders come in and they do a press conference with the Celtics' notable players this year. Gordon Hayward was there alongside Kyrie Irving, and they just kind of do an interview type setting where they talk to the season ticket holders. I believe they can ask questions and stuff like that. Brian Scalabrine was actually the one who asked about Kyrie Irving's future.
He was the host, right?
Yeah, he was the host.
Yeah.
And Kyrie got up and he basically said that if the Celtics are willing to have him back, that he will resign. And I mean, it's obviously great news. It's definitely reassuring. Over the summer, it's been a little iffy as to what his future was going to be in Boston. He said a lot of shady things in regard to his future. And I just kind of think that that's the way he is. Like, he likes to kind of stir up a little bit of controversy.
Yeah, he's very cryptic.
Yeah, he is very cryptic. I mean, you ever seen his Instagram profile picture? It's like it's like an Illuminati triangle. He's kind of a strange guy. Anyway, it is definitely something that is reassuring for the future. But the question is, on the other end of it, if you're Danny Ainge and Kyrie Irving at 26 years old, I think he'll turn 27 this year during the year. If he has another major knee injury and he misses significant time, but he plays just as well as he did last year, do you give him a max deal? I think that's the question, because it's great that Kyrie Irving's all in and that he's willing to re-sign for that max deal next summer. But on the other side, like, is Danny willing?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Tyler, I have a question for you. Are you giving this hypothetical situation? When is he missing the time? Is my question, because you got what, 68 games out of him last
It was
year?
less than that.
Less than 68. So what was it, like 50?
It was in the high 50s, I believe.
Yeah.
Let's say the same exact thing happens this year where he misses the playoffs, but he's just as effective in the regular season.
So, I mean, if you're the Celtics, obviously their playoff run was they played really well this year in the playoffs. I was very impressed by how well the young team was able to come together. You know, everyone found a role that they were comfortable with. Brad Stevens, an amazing coach, an amazing leader. He led them in a way that I was very impressed. I was very impressed about how they conducted themselves in the series against Milwaukee, going 7 games, you know, with that young roster. I thought Milwaukee was finally going to pull through and Giannis was finally going to put the team on his back. But Giannis and Chris Middleton just proved to be not enough for them. And then in the second round, when they played my Philadelphia 76ers, I thought they were just going to bowl right over them. Yeah. You know, I look at the 2 superstars on the Sixers, look at the stars on the Celtics without their superstars. And I was like, oh, yeah, my Sixers are going to win. Everyone's healthy. They're playing well. They just demolished the Heat in the first round. You know, the only win the Heat got was Dwayne Wade going back to vintage Dwayne Wade.
Right.
And Kevin Hart inciting him on the bench. I don't really know why he did that. But besides that, I thought that the Sixers were going to, you know, have their way with them. And it turned out to be the other way. You know, Boston was just well prepared for that series. They played extremely well on defense. You know, frustrating Joel Embiid, frustrating Ben Simmons, you know, using their weaknesses to, you know, exploit their weaknesses. And I thought that Boston did a great job, you know, clogging the lanes on Ben Simmons, you know, not letting him drive, not letting him find passing lanes, you know, forcing him to take jump shots, which you knew he wasn't going to take. And then with Embiid, with how they trapped him down low, they forced him to pass out of the post. You know, that's something he doesn't really like to do. He likes to get in the post, make a move, and score. Or he likes to get at the top of the key, pump fake, get to the rim, or get at the top of the key and actually pull a jump shot from out there. So what they did against both Embiid and Simmons in that series was amazing. And then to go 7 games with the great, in my opinion, the greatest player of all time, the greatest player on the planet in the third round series, the Eastern Conference Finals, was just amazing. I was amazed by how well the young Celtics played. Terry Rozier, got to give him a lot of credit. Give Tatum a ton of credit. Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, the whole team. I give them a ton of credit for how they played last year without Kyrie Irving. But the thing is they would have gotten over that hump. Would they have gotten over that hump with both Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving coming back this next year? And that's what everyone is so excited for.
Right.
But the thing is are you going to have both of them for the entire year? Like, are they going to stay healthy? And that's a big question. But I believe that with the increased roles of Tatum and
Jaylen
Brown and Rozier, with their increased roles, that will take less of a burden off of Hayward, less of a burden off Kyrie.
Right.
They won't have to play as hard. They'll be less susceptible to getting injured. They won't have to play as many minutes in the regular season. Brad Stevens will take care of them this year, make sure that they, you know, adjust well and that they're primed for the playoffs. So I think you give him the money. You know, he's Kyrie Irving. He's a top 20 player in the NBA. We're going to get into a little bit later as to why he should be a bit higher ranked.
Right, we
in
will.
terms of where people see him. But he's Kyrie Irving. You know, once in a very, very few Very few players.
Yeah, certainly a
have
franchise
ability,
player.
Yeah.
Certainly a franchise player. And I think you touched upon a lot of reasons why it makes a lot of sense for him to stay here. And there was definitely a concern that he was interested in going to the Knicks, but it appears as though he is content with staying here. So we got some more thoughts on the NBA preseason, I believe. You have a couple things listed. Staying in Boston, they've actually struggled a lot on defense.
Yeah.
This defense has not looked good at all. God, and also Gordon Hayward looks extremely rusty. He's shooting a porous number from the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe, just maybe, people like me should pump the brakes a little bit, thinking that they're ready to compete with the Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm going to take it one game at a time, slow down, ease all my hopes that I have for this team, because they got a long way to go. Maybe they're a little bit ahead of them, getting a little bit ahead of themselves, looking, down the road. And I think they just got to get back to the basics and do what make that team great, play hard every night. So we'll see how it looks, but they have struggled a lot. They believe they gave up a lot of points to the Cavs the other night. They play the Sixers on opening night in about a week.
That's a big game.
In a week, yeah, that'll be exciting. But I need the NBA back. Do you get any other thoughts on the NBA preseason?
Yeah, I have a thought. Well, we talked about your favorite team. Now let's give my favorite team a little bit of
how have they
shout
looked?
out. The Sixers look good. They're playing their up tempo, fast pace. Get to the rim, get open threes. They like to play with pace, especially with a 6'10" point guard that can move like their point guard can, Ben Simmons. So they've looked great. Well, I wouldn't say great. They lost the game, I believe, to the Nuggets. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're right.
But they played in they're in China now for the NBA China game. So this isn't really, you're not really looking at the team in terms of like how well they played it. You're not really looking at the team from like a tactical perspective. You're looking at the team from like an entertainment perspective. What can they provide for the fans in China? The NBA is a very global sport. It's a very global league. So they're just trying to promote themselves in China. So you really can't expect to see much out of their time in China. So
October 16th, Celtics Sixers.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Big matchup.
11
You already
minutes.
know we're going to be getting after each other about that game.
So what else do you have around the league? I believe there's 2 rookies on your mind that have looked good so far.
Yeah. So 2 rookies that have really caught my eye so far have been Luka Doncic, the European prospect out of Real Madrid, Spain, originally from
Slovenia,
yeah, playing with Goran Dragic on the Slovenia national team where they won a European title. He's probably the most decorated European prospect in the history of the NBA. He came into the high level pro basketball at age 16 and just didn't look back from there. He's literally won everything you can win outside of the U.S. He's won a European championship. He's won a EuroLeague championship. He's won EuroLeague MVP. He's won championship. He's won MVP of the EuroLeague championship. So he's done so many things that have been just
and I mean
fantastic.
that league is no joke. He's been in that league for a few years now, and he's only
3-4 years.
Yeah, since he was 16, and that league is full of grown men. It's known as one of the better leagues outside of the NBA in the world. There's a lot of former NBA players. There's a lot of future NBA players that play in that league. So it's really no joke what he was able to do over there. And I mean, the earlier reports out of Dallas in scrimmages and practices was that he was the best player in the court by far.
Yeah.
And it seems as though he's living up to expectation, at least so far in the preseason. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do. I mean, Dallas is kind of in a weird spot. They have some good players currently. They have Dirk on his way out. They have some decent young talent. Maybe they could surprise some people, win maybe in the mid-30s, low 30s this year.
Possibly,
you never know. I think
deep Western Conference.
Right, and it gets back to my point last show that for a team like the Lakers and LeBron, they can't. LeBron is so used to going through the regular season and just sleepwalking against these garbage teams and winning by 20 and not really emptying the tank. But now in the Western Conference, Dallas is still one of probably the bottom 3 or 4 teams in the West. And I wouldn't say that you can just roll into Dallas and sleepwalk through a game and win by 20. I think that they're going to compete with a lot of teams. Maybe not every team every night, but I still think that they have enough players. I mean, Harrison Barnes, I think, is kind of an underrated player. He's a solid player.
Yeah.
Dennis Smith could take a jump in year 2. He showed some flashes. And, I mean, they have some pieces here and there that could really make them kind of a little pesky team in the West. And if Doncic is legit from year 1, then, I don't think that any team can just roll into Dallas and roll over them. So, yeah, it certainly makes them kind of an interesting team heading into this year. And then DeAndre Ayton, he had 20 and 15.
Very impressive.
He reminds me of Hakeem Olajuwon, big time.
Really?
Yes.
You think he does over Embiid?
Yes.
That's surprising. Hakeem was a solid defender, a solid shot blocker, and I think Embiid's way better shot blocker than Ayton ever is.
Ayton is such a physical freak, and I really think the only question with him is going to be work ethic. I don't even know if he has a good or bad work ethic. I really don't know about his work ethic personally.
Yeah.
But as long as he has the work ethic, I think he's going to be a dynamite player. He's one of the most physically gifted big men in the NBA. I'm pretty sure as a rookie. So if he's willing to put in the work and work on things that he's not as good at, and nestle his way into becoming a star, then the Suns should be maybe even a little bit ahead of a schedule in terms of rebuilding with Devin Booker. And then they could be one trade away from getting another star. Mm-hmm. Or if they have another tough year this year, they could have another top 5 pick. So
yeah,
we'll see what the Suns look like this year. I mean, they should score a lot of points, I think. They're probably going to give up a lot of points as well, but they should score a lot of points.
That's true. And I just wanted to give you a couple stats from him. Through 2 games in his NBA preseason career, DeAndre Ayton has scored 24 and 21 points respectively, and grabbed 9 and 15 rebounds respectively. Well. Yeah. So, I mean, with 3 block shots and only 2 personal fouls and only 1 turnover between the 2 games, like, that's impressive. 3 blocks a game, and just 2 fouls a game, and half a turnover through 2 games. Keep in mind they did play a foreign team in their second game, but the first game was against the Kings, and he had 24 and 9, shot 56% from the field, 75% from the free throw line. Like, he is a really good offensive player, and so I'm excited to see him. Oh, Tyler, give me your early prediction on who you think will win not exactly win Rookie of the Year, but who do you think will have the biggest impact on their team, on their new team? I know I'm putting you on the spot right now, but
no, it's all right. I've been a big believer in Doncic. I think he's probably the most ready-made guy out of the draft this year, wouldn't you say? One of at least.
And he's in a great situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got Dirk as a mentor, and he's got some decent pieces around him. Like Trae Young, whether you like him or hate him, he's really got not a ton to work with over there. So I think that his impact can only go so far with what he has around him. I think Doncic has some things around him that he can work with. I mean, Ayton does too. He is probably a star, and Devin Booker next to him.
Exactly.
But I think it's going to be
Tyson Chandler.
It's going to be those 2. Marvin Bagley's got a tough, not really a great team around him either. But I'd say Doncic for sure. I think Doncic is the most ready-made player. I think he's closer to his ceiling than any other player, I think, already.
And is that a good thing or bad thing in your opinion?
It's both. It's definitely both. I think that he's going to be good right off the bat, and he's going to do things that are going to be the same throughout his career. I think he's not going to – he's kind of limited in terms of athleticism. That's one of his big weaknesses as a draft prospect. So
his position as well, being a guard,
correct.
7.
Correct. But I think that he's going to be a reliable borderline star, probably a star at some point throughout his whole career. And but it is somewhat of a negative because you look at a guy like DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley, and as you go down the draft board, there's other guys with a ton of potential. A guy like Mo Bamba, and
Kevin Knox,
and then why can't I think of his name? Memphis.
Oh, Jaren Jackson. Yeah, he does not get enough
oozing
love.
with potential, and I just don't look at Doncic the same way quite as much. But I do think that he is the most ready-made player.
Okay, all right.
So let's transition. We'll stick with the NBA actually. So we got a segment called Book Club. We're gonna go through an article when we do this segment, and we're gonna give our thoughts, opinions. We'll give a recap first and things that we agree, disagree with. So we actually have 2 articles this week. So both Sports Illustrated and ESPN came out with their top 100 players going into this season, the 2018-2019 season. I believe Sports Illustrated's been doing it for a couple years, and so is ESPN.
Yeah.
And it's kind of become a big thing with Sports Illustrated when it comes out. A lot of people like to debate the player rankings list more than any other sport that I can think of. People love to debate where basketball players are ranked in terms of each other, top 10s, top 20s, top 100s, whatever it may be.
Current,
it's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
So I read through the Sports Illustrated, really good article. It gives a good little paragraph or 2 on every player ranks. Number 100 is Lonzo Ball. Yep. Yeah, it's really very thorough, very thorough. So just to go over the top 10, I will. So it is as follows. LeBron James is number 1, Kevin Durant 2, Steph Curry, James Harden, Anthony Davis. I'll give you the 5. I'm not just going to keep rambling on.
Okay.
So a couple problems I have with this ranking. So Devin Booker is actually number 50. We talked about Devin Booker, an electrifying scorer, one of probably a top 10 scorer in the NBA, probably capable of dropping 30 or 40 pretty much any night. He had 70 against the Celtics. I remember that game.
Yep.
And they put him at 50. And there's some questionable people ahead of him. A guy like Robert Covington is ahead of him. So I really don't understand that ranking. I understand that Devin Booker has some defensive issues and that he's not a complete player, but I still would take him over the likes of Robert Covington. I know he's your guy, or even a guy ranked as high as, 35 is Clint Capella. I mean, 36 is Mike Conley. 37 is Paul Millsap. So I think that's extremely disrespectful to Devin Booker.
I mean, the thing about all those guys is they play great defense.
They do.
They play amazing defense.
They do, yeah, and that's a big thing.
Is lacking. Like it's a two-way game. So these offensive superstars aren't going to get the love that they normally get and praise that they normally get during the season while they're showing, like, you see their stats and you're like, oh my gosh, they're so amazing. But then you think, oh, there's another side to the ball.
Yeah, you have to watch in order to really get a full grasp on their game. So another one, Kyrie Irving's ranked 17th. Al Horford is actually one spot ahead of him at 16. I think Kyrie Irving's a lot closer to the top 10 than people give him credit for. He is a pure scorer, as is Devin Booker. I think his defense, it could be better, but it also could be worse. It's not a liability of sorts, especially in a system with Boston where everyone's so versatile. He really doesn't stick out too bad on the defensive end, and he creates for other people. And let's not forget, he's probably a top 5 clutch shot maker in the NBA. You rely on him with the ball at the end of a game, up there with the likes of LeBron and Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. So I think that he has to be higher, at least in the 12 or 13 range.
Yeah.
And then Al Horford being one ahead of him, that it kind of puzzles me a little bit. But anyway, and then Rudy Gobert at 14. I have a little rant about Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is a glorified role player. He is He's not a star. He's not even close to a superstar. Yes, he makes that Jazz defense. He is a game changer at the rim, blocking shots. He influences people away from driving to the rim. He's a very good rebounder. He cannot score for himself. He's not a good free throw shooter. He can't spread the floor. He's limited to a pick and roll, not even a pick and pop, pick and roll player who catches lobs and gets fouled, hits one free throw out of two. He's so limited on the offensive end that I just think it's asinine to put him at 14. I don't get these people that rant and rave about Rudy Gobert. He's a fine player. He's a good player. Can he be the second best player on a championship team? Not even close. Can he be the third best player on a championship caliber team? I don't even think so. I don't think so. You need players who are much more capable on the offensive end to be able to compete for a championship with a guy like Rudy Gobert, who's so limited on offense. And he is a glorified role player. I don't think he's a star. And I mean, I'm a fan of his game. I like how he plays. You can only be so good when you're that limited on offense. So Rudy Gobert at 14, I'd put him between 25 and 30.
Really?
I don't get these people.
All right, so I have to combat your statement just a little bit. First things first, Rudy Gobert is arguably the best defensive post player in the league.
Probably.
So what you have to give, what I don't like, and I sort of alluded to this earlier, is that there's this defensive bias within basketball fans and basketball culture, where if you're a defensive-minded player and you're a defensive specialist, you don't receive the credit you deserve if you can't provide the same quality on offense. So Kawhi Leonard definitely gets a ton of credit for being a great defender. But that's because he's a great offensive player. Klay Thompson, great defender, but he gets more credit because he's also a great offensive player. LeBron James, before last season, great player, but he got more attention as a defender.
Thanks for adding that in there.
Yeah, before last season he was not the defender
stopper.
Yeah, the defensive stopper that we've come to know LeBron James being in the past.
I appreciate you admitting that.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into a little bit of a debate as to why he wasn't last year, or why wasn't a great defender last year. But I definitely, that's something that should be acknowledged. The stats show itself. He sort of played center field last year, which was fine. You know, he definitely made some defensive plays. Like, that's something you're going to get out of LeBron. But back to what we were talking about is that there's like a defensive bias. You know, guys like Clint Capella, guys like Rudy Gobert, guys like
DeAndre Jordan.
Allen. Yeah, Tony Allen, DeAndre Jordan, guys who are great defensive players, and they can't really give you a whole bunch of offense. They sort of just get this like secondary like push, and I'm excited to see a guy like Robert Covington get some acknowledgments in ranking him in the top 50, because he's a great defensive player. He's probably the best help defensive player in the NBA, and with his expanding his role into being also a great spot up shooter, catch and shoot off the one dribble.
Robert Covington's 48.
Yeah, with him being like with him improving his role as a shooter in the Sixers offense, and the Sixers being more successful, I'm excited to see him get more credit for what he's been able to do.
Yeah, and he was one of those, Robert Covington, just to touch on him, he was one of those guys who's kind of left over from the trust the process era, where they were just throwing together guys off the scrap heap. I mean, I think he was a second-round pick.
Yeah.
I don't even know where he went to school.
Tennessee State.
So he's just one of those guys that they threw together when they were throwing rosters together those couple of years with Sam Hinkie, and he stuck. Another guy was T.J. McConnell. T.J. McConnell was just kind of a plug-and-play player who ended up sticking around and becoming useful when they finally became good. So those are my three biggest gripes with
the SI
article. Do you have any opinions on the ESPN article?
So I read the ESPN article. There was one huge thing that stood out to me and to many other people in the media. I'm just going to give you a quick top 10. At 10, we have Damian Lillard, 9 Joel Embiid, 8 Kawhi Leonard, 7 Russell Westbrook, 6 Anthony Davis, 5 Giannis Antetokounmpo, actually technically tied for 4 with Kevin Durant. We're going to get into that right now. James Harden number 3, Steph Curry number 2, and then LeBron James number 1. So with this top 10, this is definitely the top 10 players in the NBA. Okay, there's no debate about it. Don't even try to convince me that Damian Lillard is not a top 10 player. He is a top 10 player.
So you like that top 10?
Yeah, I love the top 10.
This has Kawhi Leonard, by the way, at 12. Isn't that pretty crazy?
The SI list?
Paul George is 11. Jimmy Butler's 10. Pretty
My
crazy.
Goodness, my goodness. You know, you just see Kawhi Leonard take 70 games off last year, just didn't play. And people just act like he's no good. He's garbage. Kawhi Leonard is the third best player in the NBA, and I'm about to get into that a little bit. So, I have no problems with LeBron being number 1. Where my first problem or issue comes up, I'm not mad that Steph Curry is number 2, but I'm sort of mad that Kevin Durant isn't is tied with Giannis Antetokounmpo. You can't give Giannis, a guy who hasn't really been out of the second round, the same
disrespect.
Yeah, the same ranking as 2-time NBA Finals MVP, 2-time champion, 1-time MVP, and arguably the greatest scorer in the history of the game.
Several scoring titles.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. You cannot do that. 3 straight scoring titles KD had before Melo took it.
Is that true?
Yeah, he had 3 straight from, I want to say, 2010 to 2012. Melo got it in 2013, I believe. And KD, in my opinion, is the second to third best player, depending on where you put Kawhi Leonard, depending on who has a better year that year. Okay? So you can't, I want to see my list. I'll just give my list. My list would be in this top 10: LeBron, KD, Kawhi, Curry, Anthony Davis, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Joel Embiid, and then Damian Lillard. That would be my top 10 right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that Russell Westbrook gets too much credit sometimes. Russell Westbrook and James Harden, they get too much credit. I think James Harden should have won MVP over Westbrook the other year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Westbrook the other year, which is why I thought LeBron should win it last year, because they sort of cheated James Harden because Russell had his inflated stats. That's something I'll get into in a future episode. But I think that because he didn't win it the years prior, and he was so close, he was so close to Curry in his first year, he won it. And I mean, Curry's unanimous year, no one was really on his level. 30 points a game, winning 72 games, or 73 games. My bad. That's insane. Curry deserved it that year. Give him the award. But I'm of the population that believes LeBron James should win it every year unless a player has a Curry-like year back in 2015 or 2016. So
and that's why you don't get a vote.
that's what we're striving for, Tyler. Hopefully, my hope is to one day get a vote and LeBron still be in the league, so I can throw him that vote. He could be 45 years old and still be in the NBA, and I'll still throw him a vote.
Oh my God!
So yeah, I definitely think that list is kind of just for, I don't know who created the list. Obviously, they're looking at numbers or something, not really looking at a player's true all-around game, all-around talent, and all-around impact they have in the course of an NBA game. I don't consider myself to be a basketball genius, but I consider myself to know a thing or two about the game. And I just don't think that Giannis could be tied with Kevin Durant, and I don't think James Harden is better than I don't think he's better than number 7 in terms of top players in the league. I think Anthony Davis is better than him because of the fact he plays defense, And Curry is better. I think Curry deserves to be up there, even though people harp on Curry because he's bad at defense. He's not bad at defense. He's 6'3", 180 pounds. what else is he gonna do on defense? You know?
Yeah, he's not bad. He's serviceable on
Exactly,
defense. I think
exactly.
He's serviceable.
He gets down. He's a good.
He puts in effort for sure.
Yeah. He has a knack to getting to the ball and getting the ball out of players' hands, and that's why you always see Curry on top of the steals list every year. So I don't understand what the hate is about Curry for his defense. It's just when you play the Warriors, who are you going to go at? Draymond, Clay, or Durant? No, you're going to go at Curry, the 6'3", 180-pound guy. So yeah, that's what I think on this list.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think the list was fine. Kyrie Irving at 20, I think he should be
Harsh.
bumped up a little bit. Yeah, definitely doesn't deserve 20. I'd probably put him at, like you said, 12 or 13. But other than that, solid list, ESPN, solid list put together by the writers and those who over at ESPN. Shout out to them.
Cool. So we've exhausted the NBA here. So let's do one quick thing on college basketball. So this is a segment called What's in the News. So the top story of either college basketball, NBA, any type of basketball story. So it's been a pretty big story over the last couple of days. It's the story of Brian Bowen Jr. So Brian Bowen Jr., Terrence gave me a quick background on him before the show. Basically, he was a highly recruited player out of high school. He was between some schools when he was choosing a university to go to play basketball. And out of nowhere, he picked Louisville, and it was very suspicious. And basically, according to the Washington Post article, Brian Bowen's father, Texas, Arizona, Creighton, and Oklahoma State, made cash offers. The agent that was affiliated with Louisville and Adidas was soon after arrested, along with two other people involved in the scandal for bribery. And it turns out Brian Bowen Jr. was given $100,000 through Adidas to pick Louisville to go to school there. So, as Terrence, do you want to touch upon, he tried to transfer to South Carolina and he wasn't allowed?
Yeah, so what he did was he transferred to South Carolina for the second semester, I believe. Got there, started practicing, working out with the team, then decides he's going to enter the NBA draft. You know, he figured he'd rather not just wait for the NBA to clear him and give him a waiver to play, so he'd rather just go on, test the waters in the NBA. He went to the combine, showed well, had decent stats, played well, but he knew he wasn't going to get drafted. So he decided to withdraw from the NBA draft, and, with the NBA declaring him ineligible because he received payment from Adidas in Louisville, he decided to test the waters overseas, see how he does over there, and then possibly enter an upcoming NBA draft. So right now he is on the Sydney Kings in Australia, trying to find a similar route to what Terrence Ferguson did.
Right.
After
Emmanuel Mudiay.
Yeah, Emmanuel Mudiay going to China. You've seen it. Brandon Jennings was, I think, the first guy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen it a few times now. Now you see Darius Baisley, most recent, Syracuse commit,
Right.
top 10
I was thinking of
McDonald's
him.
All-American, decides to decommit from Syracuse and join the NBA G League, which is an interesting thing.
Right.
Because normally when players go to the G League's like the sunken place.
Very true.
Yeah, where you can't really get out of it unless you get some type of help,
So the new news that's come out of the story is that Brian Bowen Jr.'s dad is testifying in court, and he testified that schools like Arizona offered Bowen Jr. $50,000 to commit. Creighton offered $100,000. Oklahoma State offered $150,000 to go along with helping him buy a car and a home in the area. Texas offered an undisclosed amount as well to go along with what he ultimately accepted from Louisville. So it's a pretty big scandal. There's going to be the FBI briefings have been coming out slowly. We'll probably hear about decisions, I don't know, within months. It still seems as though we're far away from what type of sanctions are going to come down. There's going to be some type of reform on the horizon. There already was reform announced over the summer. So, Terrence, I have a question for you. Does this surprise you at all?
It does, or like originally, like you hear, like, oh yeah, you never know what's going on in college basketball, but it's crazy to see like so many high profile programs and big schools just open like
Dishing out so much money.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was very surprised to see this. I was very surprised to hear this. College basketball isn't what you think it is. At some levels, some students are struggling, to make ends meet, to eat every day, and then while at other levels, some players are living lavish, and the same thing goes for college football. While it all depends on your school, it depends on your scholarship, it depends on a lot of things. So I love college basketball. I think everyone who has the ability deserves to play. I think, well, you brought this up earlier. Well, you brought this up while we were prepping for the show, and I wanted to get into a little bit of like, what do you want to change about college basketball? You said if we were the commissioner, so,
right?
Yeah, let's head into that.
Let's head into that. Yeah, it's a good segue. So I've been a long proponent of not giving players a salary or a wage or something like that, but if you reach a point while you're in college that you can make money off of your name or your image or your likeness, sign autographs for money, sell merchandise, anything like that, get a shoe deal, you should absolutely be able to do that. Absolutely. I don't think that the walk-on on Ohio State should be getting paid, but I do think that the guys with the bigger names in college basketball.
Why not? He goes to practice every day, just like everybody else.
I don't care about that, though. He's not making the school any more money, I don't think, at all. So I think that where these schools are making all this money is off of these big-name players who are bringing their programs to prominence, and so they deserve a piece of that pie. Yeah. And if they want to, open up a website where they sell T-shirts and merchandise, if they want to sell jerseys, if they want to have a promotion where they sign autographs, if they want to have the thing like what happened with Syracuse, right? Didn't a player get paid for doing a camp one summer?
Terrence Roberts, back in 2007, I want to say, he went to a local YMCA in Cortland, which is about a half hour south of Syracuse, and he taught basketball lessons. And that's part of the reason why Syracuse had to endure those sanctions a few years ago. He taught basketball lessons at a local YMCA, and that was an NCAA violation. So.
Right, and I just think that is so over the top, ridiculous. That should be allowed completely.
Yeah,
and I just don't understand why they're so invested on this idea of amateurism, where all these colleges are making so much money, millions and millions and millions of dollars off of these athletes.
The NCAA as well, making billions.
Yeah, they totally deserve a piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mine goes right along with yours. I think players should be able to earn money based on their likeness, like in any circumstance. Like, I think that the walk-on at Lehigh deserves a chance, to at least allow EA Sports or 2K to put his name, put his likeness in a game. Like, whether he's like a 62 overall or whether you're like a 95 overall in the game, like Zion Williamson's, the RJ Barrett's. Like,
I would love to bring back NCAA basketball.
Oh, like those games have always been the most fun games, the most exciting, the most addicting games. I still play NCAA 14 on my Xbox today. I brought it all the way to college with me. So like that even just shows you how much like people love to play NCAA games, and that is just it was such a big aspect of the sports gaming community. And I think that allow every player to be able to earn money based on their status and their likeness. They work so hard. You know how hard it is to play at a Division I sport, like
It's hard.
just to make it to that level, just to make it to the college level, it's insane the amount of hours and dedication you have to put in. Allow them to at least, enjoy the fruits of their labor.
Right. Totally. 100%. All right. We're right up on the 45th minute of the podcast. Do you have anything else to add, Terrence?
I'm done for the day, Tyler.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. That was a good episode, though. We'll have more new segments coming up next week and in the weeks to come. I think that episode went a lot better, and we are officially one more episode away from surpassing last year's total. So that's really exciting. Until next week, to Echols and Webb.
Yeah. Thanks
See
for
you guys
listening.
later. Yeah.